Hey, welcome to SportsBeat Live, where the folks who cover the Chiefs for the Kansas City Star talk about the team, the game, and we do it among ourselves, and we do it with you as well. So send us your questions and comments, and we will talk about the Chiefs' 43-16 victory over the Denver Broncos today, and we'll do it with folks like Vahe Gregorian and Sam Mellinger. They're in the house right now. What's up, guys?
Well, of course. I saw one guest for a second. Is he?
Oh, we'll get to him in just a moment. I just wanted to say hello to you guys.
It took whatever words I had. They got replaced when I saw that sweet face.
Also joining us is Herbie Tiopi. Herbie, how you doing tonight?
There he is.
Larger than life, Herbie Tiopi. Apparently
Oh
can't
no,
hear us.
he's just staring at us.
All right, Beth is going to get that fixed. I know she will. And we'll also be joined by Sam McDowell here in a little while. So, Beth, let me know when we get Herbie. We can hear Herbie because we cannot do a show without Herbie Tiopi. So, all right, guys, let's. So you're looking at the final stats. You see where the Chiefs accumulated a season low 286 yards. Patrick Mahomes 200 yards passing. I don't know if that's a season low, but he kind of had to rally. He had to rally to get to that. The Chiefs had an offensive void in the second and third quarters, at least getting into the end zone, and they win a game more decisively than they've won a game this season. So, what do we say about these Chiefs? Let's start with you, Melly.
Yeah, I mean the thing that kept hitting me across the head, basically from the kickoff on, is how many different ways this team can win games. And not just this game, although it's a a beautiful example with Daniel Sorensen, a pick six, Byron Pringle, the big kickoff return. You mentioned all that. There was good cover. I mean, they just Willie Gay's progression is pretty noticeable. Le'Veon Bell ran with more juice than I expected at this point. But we've also seen it just throughout the season. You know what I mean? They won with patience against the Texans. They won, in the clutch against the Chargers. They won with just overwhelming strength and speed against the Ravens. They've won with the run game against the Bills. It's really remarkable, especially just 2 years ago. It was like threading a needle, and Mahomes had to be great, and then you just hope at the end, and this team just has so many different ways to do it. It's pretty striking.
We say, Vahe.
I'd say the same thing. I really like how Sam cataloged it through the season, because that really is a great kind of spectrum of how it's played out. I was pretty cognizant of just the last 2 weeks in particular, the way they inflicted the run game last week on the Bills. And then today, I mean, really, the Broncos kind of got what they wanted in the Mahomes context. I mean, there was this 10-minute and 6-second period in the second quarter where Mahomes didn't get on the field. But unfortunately for the Broncos, that's where they lost the game too, with the Sorensen play and the Pringle play. And so I guess Sam and I were in touch during the game, and I think are both coming away with the feeling of just how many different ways they can do this. Blair, I was thinking of your English literature background and the little Shakespearean concept of how many ways can I beat thee? Let me count them. So it just keeps kind of happening that way. And look, and the bigger point really is that they just are. It was complementary football. That's become a part of their game. The special teams had been a little bit of a strange disappointment a lot of the season, and today that wasn't the case. And Blair, your story on Byron Pringle got into this too, not just the 102-yard return, but down on that ball inside the one. That was the drive that ultimately became the Sorensen interception return. And so anyway, it's just pretty impressive. And I looked this up, and this was the most lopsided win in Denver since 1966. So that's quite a thing in this series.
Yeah, look, they won big there last year, but of course the big news out of the Denver game a year ago was the Patrick Mahomes knee injury. But before that, overtime game and, the fourth quarter comeback game. They've always, even though the Chiefs have won the division for the last 4 years, they've always had a battle in Denver and with the Broncos team that didn't make the playoffs. But yeah, listen, you guys are right. The Byron Pringle, the last 4 times he's touched the ball in a game, he had a 9-yard reception for a first down in Buffalo, the 37-yard catch that was a big play in Buffalo in the fourth quarter, and then the kickoff return and the downing the punt inside the 1. So let him touch the ball a little more, I think, is the message here.
I remember that play last year in Detroit, too. He had a big play going into the final series, right? I think down the stretch.
Yeah, he did. He answers the bell every time he's called upon. And it's great to see, especially as a K-Stater, a local product. I don't know. The thing that I guess concerns me a little bit is special teams can have a great game. And I agree with you, Vahe. This was their best game. And I think it's their best game because they've had a lot of mediocre games this season. And defense played terrific, 4 takeaways. But I don't think week in and week out you can count on those things. The things that we've been able to count on with the Chiefs have been Patrick Mahomes and the Pro Bowl or All Pro receiving core, and they weren't there today. It's a good thing that defense and special teams were there today, but maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit here. And give credit to Denver, and Vic Fangio's a great defensive mind, no doubt about it. The guy, I figured he'd have some sort of plan for the Chiefs. And how many times was Mahomes sacked today? It was 3 in the first half. Did it end up being 4? I mean, he went down with a 4-man rush a lot today.
Yeah. Certainly got sacked on that first play of the second half. Also, I didn't look at the final stats, but he certainly was contained, right? I mean, through 3 quarters, they had 1 offensive touchdown, and it's interesting to try to think through how this game would have played out if not for those 2 big plays. Maybe Chiefs strategically would have handled it differently too. It was 24-9, I guess, Blair and Sam, when they took the ball with 4 minutes left, roughly in the second quarter. I thought they were going to score that and maybe score on the first drive of the second half and really put it away, and they didn't score on either. And I don't know if they played a little differently because of that margin they held.
It's a weird thing. Like Andy Reid says it. Eric Bieniemy says it better. Like he says, every play that we have is designed to score a touchdown. I mean, they are aggressive, but there's a long, and not just since Mahomes has been the quarterback, basically since Andy Reid has been here, it seems like when the Chiefs get a big lead, they kind of go vanilla and they don't pour it on. And that's probably a thing. That's a good problem to have. It means you're getting big leads, right? But I don't know how much of it was like that game situation, because that has been a trend, and how much of it is just like subtle execution stuff. Like there were 2 plays that really stuck out to me. One, Jeff Schwartz, if people are on Twitter, Jeff Schwartz broke this play down perfectly. It was that 3rd and I think 4 sack that Chubb got. And his point was that Le'Veon Bell just needs to turn his head around and look for the pass. And Mahomes was cocked and ready to throw it, but Le'Veon wouldn't turn around, so he just took the sack. You would think that after another month or 2 months or whatever, Le'Veon Bell will have the pace of this offense. I mean, going from the Jets to the Chiefs must be whiplash, for a running back with all the different stuff he's got to learn. And then the other one was a play on the other end of the field, I think in the 3rd quarter, and it was a 3rd down, and it was down the right sideline. Mahomes had flushed a pocket and made eye contact with Edwards-Helaire, who got behind the defender, and Mahomes made this kind of it's a pretty sweet pass, just sort of off platform or whatever, kind of short armed it and put it right on his hands, and Edwards-Helaire just dropped it. If you get those 2 plays, we're talking about 8 more points, and I don't know how much it still wouldn't have. They had other issues. I'm not trying to say otherwise, but I think some of that stuff would have been cleaned up with just those 2 plays.
Yeah, I agree.
It is kind of funny. One quick thought on this, just overall, and sorry to interrupt, Blair. We're watching them function in snow and 15-degree temperature. They're supposed to just do what they do. And, I get it. They're pros, and they have dealt with these kind of situations before. But I do wonder how much that's a factor in how today played out. too. I mean, we can't really tell exactly how it would have been otherwise. We don't know, but it's just something I think of.
Yeah, and I do keep going back to this thought that I've had a few times over the last 3 years when it's, they can't beat man or they can't beat, deep coverage or whatever. And I keep thinking, like, if your biggest concern about the Chiefs is the offense, like, you're good. You just wait that out. It'll be fine.
Well, I wonder how many teams in NFL history scored 43 points and went as much as 0 for 8 on third down conversion.
Yeah, right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, we got Sam McDowell here. What's up, Sam?
What's going on, guys?
And I believe we have.
No way.
Yeah. I'm thinking we've got Herbie Teope. Herbie, are you there?
No.
Can't hear you, Herbie.
God, he can hear us though. That's a plus. That's some progress.
You hear us?
Just hold up like cue cards or something, bud.
Oh man,
this kind of reminds me of like when Chris Owings and was it 2018? Like he just could not get a hit for his life, and they just kept trotting him back out there. Just kept trying. Like someday it's gonna happen. This guy's gonna break through. That's what we're doing with Herbie here.
He's really going to the cue cards. I like this.
Needs to happen.
Yeah. Oh, sweet, buddy. We miss you too.
Yeah. Sorry, Herbie. Well, hang on. Listen to us anyway and tell us where we go off track here. Sam McDowell, what did so you wrote about the defense.
So he's gone.
but he's listening.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. I guess what's weird about this game is there were a lot of weird plays in it, but still after a 43-16 game, I thought it all centered just towards one thing. So I didn't feel like there were a ton of storylines maybe that came out of it. So it's probably a little bit similar to, things that Vahe and Sam touched on before I hopped on here. But, obviously they found a way to win when they didn't need Patrick Mahomes to be great. But what was relevant to me is 2 weeks ago, this defense basically said, we're going to need you to be great this week. Go ahead and take care of this week. And in the past, we've seen that become a trend. And now after they had a bad game, it didn't multiply into 2 or 3 or 4. It was one bad outing against the Raiders. And the next 2, the defense has been back to being really good. They only had 206 yards to the Bills last week. And then today, I know the yardage may not apply, but first of all, they had to play 2 extra possessions of defense because they had a pick 6 and they had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So they're on the field a lot today. So I don't think the yards is a really quite fair statistic to judge how the defense played. They forced 4 turnovers. They sacked Drew Lock 3 times. So to me, the defense was good in back-to-back weeks after a week in which they were the worst. There's some advanced metrics, and I got into this a little bit, but like Football Outsiders, which I know Melly uses as well, says that this defense is better than it was in 2019. And there's some other stats that also show that these guys are already better than they were in 2019.
I think that looks like it too. I do
too.
I love the metrics, but I think it's, it's still got to match up sometimes, and you feel better about it when it matches up what you see. Like scoring is. This has been a big topic right around the league. Scoring.
That's a good point.
Highest scoring league. In years, and except for the Raiders game, which is just, the anomaly. If we're looking at the whole season, they've allowed 20 or fewer in every game. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy for a team to be able to do.
I keep waiting for them to be exploited by their issues in the run game, but in the end, it hasn't really hurt them quite that much.
Today was a good example, right? They gave up some big runs. Some of those, like, I don't know if they technically qualify as chunk yards, right? But it seemed like Phil Lindsay was getting some pretty good runs, and it's just they still shut him down.
Yeah.
I thought Philip Lindsay was at his best when he was cutting back, right? The hole wasn't there; he'd cut back, and there's still a little bit of an issue. But I thought it was a smart game plan by Steve Spagnuolo to put pressure on a quarterback starting his 9th NFL game, and it's not like there's 75,000 fans at the stadium. There were 5,700 fans. It's basically a neutral field, and they put pressure on Drew Lock and may have been his fourth game as a pro. I know he didn't like how he played against the Patriots last week, but they won the game. And today it was just not a great game for Drew Lock.
Yeah, his numbers were better than his actual play on the field. I thought, especially in the first half, Drew Lock was really bad, and there were, he didn't give his receivers a chance on a lot of plays. He threw the ball away, and maybe the coverage was great downfield. I thought he struggled to just identify where the blitz was coming from. To your point, Blair, on Spagnuolo choosing to blitz him, it seemed like he struggled to figure out which guys were coming and where the pressure was coming from. And then, obviously the pass to Sorensen was bad. Now Hamler should have caught the ball on, which that was like the funniest quote I thought we had post game. Because Tyrann Mathieu on his interception just said, "You expect an NFL receiver to catch that, but I'm glad he didn't."
Somehow he said it in a way that it didn't come across as taunting, or it didn't come across as taunting as it will read when it's in print.
Yeah.
And in the Denver locker room, I'm sure it was funny.
But Matthew did laugh after he said it. Like he was like, "Ooh, I don't know if that's the way I meant that to come out."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll see your funny post game quote and raise you with when Patrick Mahomes was talking, and it was to Sam Mellinger's question, and Patrick said something to the effect of, "Young Patrick would have tried to force something." Young Patrick, he's 25.
Right.
Right. While we're on post game quotes, I'm getting on my phone because I've got to read one from the Denver left tackle that the Denver Post tweeted out. Garrett Bowles. He said. He was asked what separates the Broncos from the Chiefs, and he said, "I think we're neck and neck, but that's just me personally. I don't think there's anything that makes them more spectacular than us." I can think of one guy
that is just him personally.
How much do you think NFL teams really ever feel like they need to use bulletin board material? I mean, is that the sort of thing that ends up getting the attention of the Chiefs in a couple of weeks?
I just think that Garrett Bowles has a really good sports psychologist that probably needs a raise.
Hey, listen though, if you're playing the line, you felt like you played with the Chiefs if you're the Broncos, right? From a total yard standpoint.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
I mean, don't you physically matched up against the Chiefs? So
yeah,
but I do think those numbers are skewed by those two big plays. They got two less offensive possessions. The yards per play still favors the Chiefs.
Right? Yeah, by a little bit. Yeah, there is like a like when you play pickup basketball, if you get somebody on the court that's like got the delusional confidence, you know what I mean? Like the just unnecessary delusional confidence guy. He's the worst guy on the field or on the court.
Give us a name. Give us a name.
There was Rudolph way back in the day, but but now, like if you're like you don't get to be a professional athlete unless you have delusional confidence at some point in your life. Like I mean, that's good for him. Good for Garrett.
Where does this fit in with the only time I play pickup basketball with you and you hit everything for free? Where does that fit?
You gotta keep shooting, no matter what, man.
Herbie reminds us that the Broncos only had one explosive play, 20 yards or more. So a good point by Herbie. Hey, so Kyle Coffey said, Herbie,
what?
You there?
What?
Wow.
Wow, we are here.
The rest of the show is yours, Herbie.
Now it's a show.
Turn it over.
Hey, Herbie.
Big props to producer Beth in the background who figured out how to make the magic work. What's up, guys?
God dang, it's good to hear you. We've seen you.
Welcome to Kansas City, Herbie.
Week by week, man.
How about general impressions, Herbie? I just thought interesting game for a lot of reasons. Chiefs played without Sammy Watkins again, without Mitchell Schwartz for the first time, and missed his first start in 9 years. And yet they had their most lopsided outcome of the season.
It was an impressive win, complete domination, and a 10 straight win over the Broncos. Andy Reid now 27-4 versus the AFC West since the start of the 2015 season. To Sam's point, because even though y'all couldn't see or hear me initially, I was listening to what Sam was saying. Garrett Bowles, wow, man, that's a really bold statement. After your team has just lost 10 straight, this Chiefs team today was just so impressive. It's not every week you see an NFL team win with all three phases of the game, and they did it all in the first half, and that was just impressive attack to me.
Kyle Coffey says, time for the NFL to give this defense the respect they deserve. They are absolutely shutting teams down. They had one bad game where they had coverage mishaps against Vegas, but that's been it. I agree.
I will say this, though, Blair, to Vahe's point earlier, because I heard him say about if I have any concerns about this, and it's going to go back to Melly, because Melly always says this, it seems like every Thursday on our Thursday shows, the run defense. I mean, when you peel everything back, I mean, 177 yards rushing allowed, that's a lot of friggin' yards, man. I mean, the Chiefs entered this game ranked 30th in the league, and they were only allowing 145. So now it's 177 they just gave up. So I'm sure their ranking is going to drop even more. And how much further can you drop? You're going to face a team eventually, especially when you start getting near the playoffs. The Steelers run the ball. The Titans run the ball. And we're at the midpoint of the season, and you'd like the issues to be addressed for the stretch run. And I think stopping the run has got to be a concern here.
But to sort of counterpoint that, because we have been talking about this for 2 years, the evidence is sort of there that they don't need to fix this, do they? I mean, based on what the fact that the defense was still top 10 in points allowed this year, they finished, what was it, the last 8 games of last year, including the playoffs, top 10 in points against. And teams have been running all over them the entire time. I think they've sort of decided this is the weakness that they're okay with right now.
Well, they haven't paid the price for it. I mean, it hasn't cost them, right? To your point, Sam. I mean, that's true.
It was 5.4 yards a carry.
The Raiders, though. The Raiders, they had 7 explosive plays, 6 of them coming through the air.
The Raiders was the passing game, though. The Raiders are the only team that have passed for 300 yards against them.
Hold up, I'm going back here because I know the Raiders put up some yards also on the ground.
All right, while you're looking, Herbie,
rushing, 2 touchdowns.
What was the total?
24 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns.
Okay. David Everling says Nick Keiser was having a miserable day until the catch late in the game, which looks suspiciously like the one he dropped against the Raiders. I had the same thought.
Yeah.
I was feeling bad for Nick Keiser after losing the fumble. But he had a key block on the Pringle touchdown return as well, kickoff return. And it was nice to see him with a long reception later in the game. Good for his confidence.
TV cameras caught Nick Keiser over there, and as Melly likes to say, someone needs a hug. And at that point, after the Broncos scored, the TV camera panned immediately over to Nick Keiser, and he's on the sideline, and nobody was around him. I felt kind of bad for him. He needed that play, though, to boost his confidence.
Brian Johnson with a Wildcat logo says, been calling it for 3 years. Pringle has better kick return instincts than the stats starter, which is McCole Hardman. Showed him today. That was impressive. It was well blocked, but one good move and he was gone. And this is what he did in college. He returned a kick for a touchdown each of his 2 years at Kansas State. And tell you what, when you draft a Kansas State wide receiver who's had some time returning kicks, you're going to get somebody who knows how to do that. And that was a heck of a play.
I like that word that he used, instincts. It does seem like he's got a little bit of timing. He's got like something, like in sorry about these analogies, but like in baseball, they talk about a pitcher that can like sit 95 and then go get 98 or 99 when he needs it. And like Pringle, he's running up, but it's almost like he's waiting like a Le'Veon Bell, patience, and then when he sees it and then he goes to another gear. He seems to do that pretty consistently.
It's interesting. Blair and I were talking about it in here. I mean, Hardman had the one for 104 yards last year, but I think it's a legitimate question we'll never know the answer to. Would Hardman have taken that one back?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't think we're going to see him get another opportunity. I think we'll see Hardman continue on the punt returns, but Pringle's going to be your guy back there for kickoff returns, I believe.
2 weeks ago, they put, I think it was Fenton back there in a game just one time. And remember, Dave Tobe was asked about it the following week when the coordinators were available and said the reason they took Hardman out was because they wanted to bait the other team into actually kicking a returnable kick rather than just kicking it through the end zone. We know for sure that McManus can kick the ball through the end zone in Denver. And I wonder if they saw Pringle back there today and thought we might be able to try to pin him a little bit deeper than the 25-yard lines, and they got bit.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Let's stay on special teams for a moment here. Kathy Christensen and Dan Walden are asking about Harrison Butker. I was until the Chad Henne touchdown, the Chiefs special teams were perfect as far as I was concerned. Perfect day. A kickoff return, a punt down inside the 1, 3 field goals for Butker on a snowy field, made all of his extra points, and then he missed the final extra point, giving him 5 misses for the year. And Sam McDowell, you noticed something about Harrison Butker the first time he lined up for an extra point.
Yeah, he was lined up on the right hash, which is definitely an adjustment because didn't Cairo Santos used to do that too? I think he also was a right hash extra point guy. So he's switched something. It's funny that you mentioned it was after the Henne touchdown. Looking back, I guess Butker's probably the only guy that wasn't just absolutely elated about Chad Henne getting a rushing touchdown in a 43-16 game.
Boy, Chad Henne was elated.
Absolutely pumped.
Yeah. That was great.
That was one happy backup quarterback right there, man. Oh, man. So a lot of these comments are about Herbie, so we'll stay away from those. He's back.
To Harrison Butker's point, I mean, and I think that's a valid concern. You got to remember, when he entered this year, he was converting on at least 93 and above % on extra points. This year, he's now 19 to 24. So if my math is correct, he's at 79.1%. That's a drastic drop from the career guy who was averaging 93%. And if I may, I'm going to point the finger at Melly, because remember Melly wrote that glowing column about a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden the wheels just came off. So it's all on Melly.
Well, he's won the one game, right? I mean, he's you get 2 58-yarders in a game, including the walk-off. You've done your job. So
and that's when Melly wrote the column.
That's right. Yeah. Veteran move, man. Get it in when you can.
Did Herbie just say, if my math is correct, as if he didn't actually already look that up?
Yeah, that was subtle but easy to expose.
Don't self move.
Yes, the same thing. Brian LeBurge says Hardman looked good early today. Vahe and I were talking about the same thing in the office. It looked like there was a concerted effort to get McCole Hardman into the offense after basically not being persona non grata last week at Buffalo. Had a couple of big plays early on.
The guy that we didn't see a lot of today, I'm trying to look up his numbers to get my math correct on this. But Demarcus Robinson, I didn't think we saw on the field as much, just snap count wise. I'll be interested whenever Herbie breaks that down tomorrow. But I didn't feel like we saw quite as much as Demarcus Robinson on the field today. And it seemed like we did see more Byron Pringle on the field. And like you mentioned, there was definitely an emphasis to get when you have a reverse to the guy in the opening play of the game. It's not Tyreek Hill. There's a point to get McCole Hardman involved.
I think I might be wrong about this, but I don't think Hardman had a target after the first quarter. Am I right about that?
No,
it was too early.
Catches on 2 turns.
We've seen Andy do that before. I feel like I can remember certainly a handful of games where Andy kind of primes the pump with one guy and really goes to him early just to make sure he's involved, and they just kind of move on.
Vahe, to that point, I'm going to invoke a name not heard in a long time. The Chad Hall game in Tennessee. See if you guys remember that.
Yes. That's exactly right. First series, right?
Yeah, like 6 straight passes to him or something like that.
Barbara Hedrick wants to know if the Butker issue is tied to the new holder. I think we've asked Dave Tobesman asked that, and of course he denies that is an issue. But it is the new dynamic, right, for Butker this year.
Well, Colquitt's out there. I mean, if they want to put just a holder on the roster.
That's right. Didn't Tobe call the holds perfect? Didn't he use that word?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
I will say the manner in which Tobe said it was believable. It certainly convinced me that the holds had not been an issue.
Carol Spencer says the team really rallied around Henne. I thought that said Herbie at first, but both are true.
Yeah, that's true.
So, all right, 6-1. They lead the division. How about the Raiders today? After the big win over the Chiefs, this was their first game since then. Played the Tampa Bay Bucks at home and got trucked by Tom Brady and company. So, Chiefs are, am I right on record, 6-1, and Raiders are now 3-3. Chargers got the win today over the Jaguars, and so look. I thought that certainly the game that Chiefs fans were paying attention to were Steelers Titans. I watched a lot of that game, and as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, look, you're right, Herbie. You made the point. Steelers and Titans both can run the ball effectively, but I see the Chiefs beating both of those teams, and I don't know. We're almost halfway there, right? After they play the Jets next weekend, they'll play 8 games. Halfway through the season, I still see the Chiefs as the best team in the AFC. You guys with me?
I think the Steelers are really interesting. I don't know. I'm not skeptical. I wouldn't use that word, but I wasn't sure what version of Ben Roethlisberger we'd see this year. But gosh, he looks really good. I mean, he'll make some interceptions every once in a while, but he looks really good. And they got Claypool has emerged and Smith-Schuster. I mean, they just got some guys, and that defense has been crushing people. The one thing I wonder about, of course, is they blitz. Their blitz rate is far and away the tops in the league, and we know what Mahomes usually does with blitzes.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let me get to a couple more questions before we get out of here. Brian LeBurge asked, did anybody ask Frank Clark about the flea flicker? We didn't get to talk to Frank Clark after the game, but that was one heck of a flea flicker right there.
That was so funny.
That was flicked to the moon, man.
The video camera that was on Melvin Gordon's face, as soon as he flipped the ball back, you see how wide his eyes got. He's like, oh, I just threw that over the shoulder. Yeah, that was not a good play.
I really wanted to see Frank Clark's touchdown celebration if he busted loose there.
Man. Yeah. That's a good call.
And Steve Kidwell asks, the pick six, was it a bad throw or a good read by Dan or both? I think it was a combination of several things, both of those things. And who got the rush? Who was in
Anthony Hitchens?
Hitchens. It was in Drew Lock's face. That was terrific. Put the pressure on Lock, and he turned it loose and didn't see where it was going. And Dan Sorensen has had 9 interceptions in his career. He had one last week in Buffalo and the one today. 3 of them have been returned for touchdowns. So Dan is an opportunist.
You know what, Blair? Tyrann Mathieu basically said after the game that wasn't his assignment, that it was actually Tyrann Mathieu's guy. He said, because what he said was, if I break down that play for you, I'll basically be admitting that I missed my assignment on that. So I think that was Tyrann Mathieu's guy, and Sorensen cut in front and just read the play really well. And one of the other things that we'd love to hear, if all 5 of us could be dispersed throughout the locker room, we'd probably get a pretty good insight on what exactly happened there.
Yeah. I took Tyrann differently than you, Sam. I thought he was saying that he would be given away, that he wasn't properly watching his guy in man-to-man if he
because it was man coverage, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I took it, but I might be wrong. But
I see what you're saying. Okay. That could be.
Okay, one more question.
Daniel Sorensen, anyway, yeah.
One more question.
You're undefeated, as Therese Paylor would say.
Right. Peter Alden asked, what was up with not blocking Chubb twice today? I think, didn't Mahomes take his offensive line off the hook on that one?
Mm-hmm.
Only one of them. He said there was a miscue in the offensive line on one of the 3 sacks.
Okay. Yeah. Listen, again, I'll repeat this. Vic Fangio is a great defensive coach, and I thought he had a good game plan for stopping Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. He just failed in other areas of the game today, like special teams and offense for the Denver Broncos. So
all offense, yeah.
Right.
That was rough.
All right. Listen, guys, it was great talking to you. Great questions from our audience. Appreciate it, everybody. And Herbie, what can I say? It was a minor miracle that we got you here today. And
it's a new era.
Well, Herbie, as long as he's reporting from home, will be larger than life every time. So because Herbie is here on Zoom and the rest of us are on another platform. So for Zoom Herbie and for other platforms, Sam Mellinger, Sam McDowell, and Vahe Gregorian, I'm Blair Kirchhoff. And Beth Welsh, our producer. Thank you so much, Beth. We will talk to you guys again on Thursday morning at 9:30 to preview the New York Jets game. Take care.